Welcome to another episode of Thailand Truth Talks. The Thailand hotel scams. The ultimate tourist trap exposed. Imagine this. You've just landed in paradise. The warm Thai air hits your face. You're excited for your dream vacation. And you think you've scored the deal of a lifetime on accommodation. But instead of checking into your hotel room, you're standing at the front desk being told that your reservation doesn't exist. Your money? Gone. Your vacation? Ruined. Welcome to the dark side of Thailand's tourism industry. What I'm about to reveal will shock you. But it could also save you thousands of dollars and prevent your dream trip from turning into an absolute nightmare. These scams are so sophisticated, so convincing, that even experienced travelers are falling victim. And the worst part? They're getting worse every single year. Let's be blunt. Online fraud is massive and growing. And tourists are prime targets. The exact totals keep changing, but the impact is real. Lost money, ruined trips, and nights spent scrambling for a room instead of enjoying Thailand. Treat this as a risk you can avoid, not a statistic you shrug off. The hotel booking scam alone has exploded in the past 18 months. We're not talking about small-time operations here. These are organized crime rings that have stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from unsuspecting travelers. And they're getting so good at what they do that even the police are struggling to keep up. Now, let me tell you about the scam that's absolutely devastating tourists right now. And it's happening right under our noses on Facebook. Yes, Facebook. The platform you probably use to share vacation photos is being weaponized against travelers. Here's how these digital predators operate. And trust me, it's more sophisticated than you think. They don't just throw together a quick fake page and hope for the best. No, these criminals are creating pixel-perfect replicas of real hotel Facebook pages. They're stealing official photos, copying legitimate reviews, even using the same color schemes and fonts as the authentic pages. And then comes the pressure. Oh, the pressure. They'll tell you that there are only 2 rooms left at this price. They'll say the promotion expires in 6 hours. They'll claim that someone else is looking at the same room and you need to secure it now. Classic high-pressure sales tactic, but applied to fake bookings. Rule of thumb. If they ask for a bank transfer, Cash App, or messenger payment, stop. Legit businesses take cards or payment processors with buyer's protection. If you can't do a chargeback, don't pay. In one recent case that made national news, a crime ring was operating fake pages for multiple popular resorts in Pattaya. They had professional-looking websites, convincing customer service responses, even fake confirmation emails that looked identical to the real thing. Tourists were paying deposits of several thousand baht, thinking they were securing their dream vacation. The financial damage from just this one operation was staggering. Police recovered evidence showing that over $20,000 had been stolen from tourists in a matter of months. But the emotional damage? That's impossible to calculate. These people had their entire trips destroyed, their trust shattered, their excitement turned to panic and anger. Now, if you think sticking to major booking platforms like Booking.com or Airbnb makes you safe, I have some disturbing news for you. These scammers have evolved, and are now infiltrating the platforms you trust most. Let me tell you about a case that should terrify anyone who books accommodation online. A British family spent months planning their Thai vacation. They did everything right. They used Booking.com, one of the world's most trusted platforms. They researched the property, read reviews, even used Google Street View to check out the neighborhood. They thought they had covered all their bases. A British family booked a luxury villa on a big platform. Beautiful photos, glowing reviews, the whole thing. When the reservation vanished on arrival, customer service eventually refunded most money. After days of fighting and while the family slept in shifts at airports, that delay cost time, safety, and memories. Here's the part that should make your blood boil. When they contacted Booking.com for help, the platform's initial response was essentially a shrug. Hours of back and forth, being transferred from department to department, before finally getting a refund minus fees. Meanwhile, this family was stranded in a foreign country with young children and no accommodation. But here's what's really scary. The fake listing remained active on the platform for days after being reported. Think about how many other families might have booked that same non-existing property during that time. The platforms themselves are struggling to keep up. For every fake listing they remove, 10 more pop up. It's become a game of digital whack-a-mole, and the scammers are winning. Moving beyond Facebook, let's talk about how scammers are exploiting platforms like Airbnb and other vacation rental sites. This is where things get really sophisticated, because these platforms have built-in trust mechanisms that scammers have learned to game. Here's something that tourism authorities don't want to talk about, but I'm going to lay it out for you anyway. Tourists are inherently vulnerable to scams in ways that nothing to do with intelligence or education. It's about psychology, and every single one of us is susceptible under the right circumstances. Scammers understand this vulnerability better than you understand it yourself. They know that travelers are more likely to take risks, more likely to trust strangers, and more likely to make impulsive financial decisions. They deliberately target people who are in this heightened emotional state. And there's another factor that tourism boards definitely don't want publicized: the paradox of choice. Thailand has thousands upon thousands of accommodation options. The sheer volume of choices can be overwhelming, making people more likely to grab what appears to be a great deal rather than doing thorough research. Scammers exploit this decision fatigue by positioning themselves as the easy solution. No need to compare dozens of options. No need to read through hundreds of reviews. They've got exactly what you're looking for at unbeatable price. Available right now. These scams look real for a reason. Convincing confirmation emails, cloned social profiles, and plausible payment trails. Don't be impressed by polish. Check the facts behind the polish. Visuals and slick copy can be manufactured in minutes. The scale of coordination required for these operations is staggering. Different team members handle different aspects: social media management, customer interaction, payment processing, even damage control when people start getting suspicious. Now I'm going to give you the insider knowledge that could save your vacation and your money. These are the red flags that experienced travelers have learned to spot, often the hard way. First, let's talk about pricing psychology. Scammers rely on your brain's reward system, the same system that gets activated when you find a $20 bill on the ground or win a small lottery prize. They price their fake deals at exactly the right level to trigger that lucky find feeling without being so cheap that you become suspicious. If you find a hotel room that's priced significantly below comparable properties in the same area, your first instinct should be skepticism, not excitement. Real hotels don't typically offer massive discounts through random Facebook ads or unsolicited messages. They have sophisticated revenue management systems designed to maximize occupancy at optimal rates. Communication style is another crucial indicator. Legitimate hotel staff are trained in professional communication protocols. They use proper grammar, formal language, and structured responses. Scammers, especially those operating from countries where English isn't the primary language, often have subtle tells in their communication style. They might use slightly wrong prepositions, unusual sentence structures, or overly enthusiastic language that doesn't match professional hospitality standards. The urgency factor is perhaps the biggest red flag of all. Real hotels, especially successful ones, don't typically pressure you to book immediately. They're confident in their value proposition and understand that good customers take time to make informed decisions. Scammers, on the other hand, know that giving you time to think or research is their biggest enemy. Payment method requests are absolutely critical indicators. Legitimate businesses have established payment processing systems that offer protections for both the customer and the business. Bank transfers, cash apps, cryptocurrency, or any payment method that can't be reversed should immediately raise alarm bells. But here's a red flag that most people miss: oversharing of personal information. Scammers often provide excessive details about themselves, their families, or their hotel operations. They're trying to build false intimacy and trust by sharing information that seems personal and authentic. Real hotel staff maintain professional boundaries and don't typically share personal stories during booking conversations. The way scammers have infiltrated Airbnb and similar platforms reveal a level of strategic thinking that would be impressive if weren't so destructive. They study these platforms' algorithms, trust mechanisms, and user behavior patterns with the intensity of PhD researchers. They understand that Airbnb users often prefer properties with personal touches and unique character over sterile hotel rooms. So their fake listings are crafted to seem charmingly personal. They'll create backstories about host families, mention local recommendations, even reference neighborhood cats or nearby coffee shops. The review manipulation system they've developed is particularly sophisticated. They don't just create fake positive reviews. They create entire fake guest profiles with believable travel histories. These fake accounts have photos, travel timelines, and even interactions with other fake accounts to create the appearance of a genuine traveler community. The off-platform communication strategy is their endgame. They use the platform to establish initial trust, then gradually move conversations to WhatsApp, Telegram, or other messaging apps where they have more control and less oversight. Once they've got you communicating outside the platform, they can employ more aggressive sales tactics without fear of automated detection systems. The timeshare scam has evolved dramatically in recent years, and what's happening now makes the old school resort presentations look quaint by comparison. Modern timeshare scammers have learned from digital marketing experts and are using psychological manipulation techniques that would be considered unethical, even in legitimate sales. The initial approach has become incredibly sophisticated. Instead of obvious sales pitches, they position themselves as fellow travelers, local experts, or even government tourism representatives. They might approach you with a clipboard, claiming to conduct a survey about tourist satisfaction, or they might strike up a friendly conversation about local attractions. But here's the most dangerous evolution. They've stopped focusing primarily on selling timeshares. Instead, they're selling vacation clubs, travel memberships, and lifestyle communities that sound more appealing to younger travelers who might be turned off by traditional timeshare presentations. These modern schemes often involve monthly membership fees rather than large upfront purchases, making them seem more affordable and less risky. But when you calculate the total cost over time, plus the restrictions and blackout dates that make the memberships nearly impossible to use, they're often more expensive than traditional timeshares. Here's a scam angle that most travel safety guides completely miss, but it's absolutely crucial to understand. The connection between transportation scams and accommodation fraud. These aren't separate issues. They're often part of coordinated operations designed to maximize profit from each tourist. The airport pickup scam is the perfect setup for accommodation fraud. Fake taxi drivers or tour operators will offer incredibly cheap transportation from the airport. But the real goal isn't transportation revenue. It's getting you into a controlled environment where they can execute bigger scams. During the journey, they'll strike up friendly conversations about your travel plans. Where are you staying? How long is your visit? What's your budget? They're not being friendly. They're gathering intelligence that will be used to customize their scam approach. Then comes the redirect. They'll claim your hotel has suddenly become unavailable due to overbooking, construction, or some other emergency. But don't worry. They just happen to know about a better property at a similar price. What a coincidence. In more elaborate versions of this scam, the alternative property is actually part of the same criminal operation. You're not just being overcharged. You're being delivered directly into the hands of people who will continue scamming you throughout your entire stay. They might sell you overpriced tours, fake travel insurance, or worthless currency exchange services. By the time you realize what's happening, you've already invested so much money and time that walking away feels impossible. What really makes these scams effective isn't the technology or the fake websites. It's the emotional manipulation. These criminals understand human psychology better than many licensed therapists, and they use that knowledge to devastating effect. They know that planning a vacation puts people in an optimistic, trusting mindset. You want to believe that your trip will be amazing, that you'll create lifelong memories, that everything will work out perfectly. Scammers exploit this optimism by positioning themselves as the key to making your dream vacation a reality. They also exploit cultural assumptions. Many Western travelers assume that English language communication indicates legitimacy, or that professional-looking websites represent established businesses. Scammers have learned to mimic these cultural cues perfectly. The social proof manipulation is particularly insidious. They'll show you fake testimonials from people who supposedly look like you. Same age range, same nationality, same travel style. Your brain instinctively trusts information that comes from people you perceive as similar to yourself. When scammers request payment through bank transfers or cash apps, that money disappears into financial black holes designed specifically to be untraceable. The bank accounts are often opened using stolen identity information, managed by money mules who don't even understand that they're part of a criminal operation. And the funds are moved through multiple accounts across different countries within hours of being received. Even when police arrest scammers, which happens rarely and usually only after extensive investigations. The money is long gone. Criminal organizations have learned to separate the people who interact with tourists from the people who handle the financial operations. The person who charmed you on Facebook and took your payment is often just a low-level employee who doesn't have access to the money and doesn't know where it went. Platform refunds, when they happen at all, are often partial and come with conditions that make them nearly useless. That British family I mentioned earlier, they got most of their money back, but only after weeks of fighting with customer service, providing extensive documentation, and accepting responsibility for not following platform guidelines that they were never told about. Credit card chargebacks are slightly more hopeful. But scammers have learned to structure their operations to minimize chargeback success rates. They use payment processors in countries with weaker consumer protection laws. They create paper trails that make it difficult to prove fraud. And they often wait several months between taking payment and the customer discovering the scam. The legal system is largely useless for individual victims. International fraud prosecution is expensive, time-consuming, and requires cooperation between multiple jurisdictions that often have different priorities and legal frameworks. Even when criminals are successfully prosecuted, victim restitution is rare and usually minimal. Quick reality. Hotels sometimes focus on brand protection before traveler education. That means you can't assume they'll warn you. Verify bookings yourself. Call the hotel's official number. Confirm the reservation. And insist on a chargeable payment method you can dispute if needed. Some hotels actually benefit indirectly from booking scams. When tourists arrive expecting rooms they don't have, hotels often offer emergency accommodation at premium rates. They're essentially profiting from their guests' misfortune, and many are reluctant to disrupt this additional revenue stream. The platform relationships between hotels and booking sites create additional complications. Hotels often don't want to publicly acknowledge that their properties are being impersonated because it might damage their relationship with legitimate booking platforms or create liability issues. There's also a concerning trend of hotels shifting responsibility to tourists rather than addressing security vulnerabilities. When scam victims contact hotels directly, they're often told that it's the customer's responsibility to verify booking authenticity, rather than the hotel's responsibility to prevent identity theft. The official government response to tourism scams has been woefully inadequate, and tourists need to understand they cannot rely on authorities for protection or assistance. The numbers I mentioned earlier about fraud costing economy billions of dollars, that's just what gets reported. The real numbers are almost certainly much higher. Tourist police units are typically understaffed, undertrained, and focused more on managing tourism promotion than fraud prevention. They're often more concerned with maintaining Thailand's reputation as a safe destination than actually addressing the security issues that threaten tourists. When arrests do happen, they're typically of low-level operators rather than the people actually running these criminal enterprises. The masterminds behind major scam operations are rarely caught, and when they are, they often receive minimal sentences that don't deter others from entering the same criminal business. The lack of coordination between different government agencies creates additional problems. Tourism authorities, police departments, immigration officials, and financial regulators all have different priorities and don't share information effectively. The scams I've described so far are just the tip of the iceberg. Criminal organizations are constantly developing new variations that exploit emerging technologies and changing travel patterns. The fake hotel chain scam is particularly insidious. Criminals create entirely fictional hotel brands with professional websites, social media presence, and even fake corporate histories. They might create 5 or 6 properties under this fictional brand, complete with fake locations, fake staff profiles, and fake corporate partnerships. The renovation redirect scam exploits legitimate hotel challenges. Scammers monitor real hotels that are undergoing renovations or temporary closures, then contact people who have existing bookings to offer emergency alternative accommodations. They position themselves as representatives of the hotel trying to help affected guests, when in reality they're exploiting a legitimate situation for criminal gain. The group booking scam targets wedding parties, corporate retreats, and other large group reservations. The financial stakes are much higher, and the emotional investment makes victims more likely to ignore red flags. Groups often designate one person to handle booking arrangements, creating a single point of failure that scammers can exploit. The loyalty program scam involves creating fake hotel loyalty programs or exploiting real ones. Scammers will contact travelers claiming they qualify for special discounts or upgrades based on their travel history, then use this supposed VIP status to justify unusual payment or verification requirements. What most people don't realize is that falling victim to a hotel booking scam often triggers a cascade of additional problems that can destroy your entire trip and create problems that last long after you return home. When you arrive to discover your reservation doesn't exist, you're not just dealing with a financial loss. You're dealing with an accommodation emergency in a foreign country where you might not speak the language, understand the local systems, or know how to find legitimate alternatives quickly. Emergency accommodation is always expensive. Hotels know that people in desperate situations will pay premium rates, and they price accordingly. That $200 room you thought you booked for might end up costing you $600 per night when you're scrambling to find anything available. But the financial impact goes beyond accommodation costs. Emergency rebooking often means paying for transportation you hadn't budgeted for, eating at expensive hotel restaurants because you don't have time to research affordable alternatives, and missing out on prepaid activities because you're dealing with the crisis. The time cost is equally devastating. Instead of enjoying your vacation, you're spending hours on the phone with banks, credit card companies, and customer service departments. You're filing police reports, researching alternative accommodations, and trying to reconstruct your travel plans. This problem extends far beyond Thailand, and understanding the global scope is crucial for protecting yourself wherever you travel. The same criminal organizations often operate across multiple countries, and techniques that work in Thailand are being exported to other tourist destinations worldwide. The Southeast Asian scam networks have become particularly sophisticated because they're targeting travelers from wealthy countries who often have limited recourse once they return home. The geographic distance makes investigation difficult. The jurisdictional complications make prosecution unlikely, and the cultural barriers make communication challenging. These operations are also adapting to changing travel patterns, as destinations like Vietnam, Cambodia, and Myanmar become more popular with tourists. Scammers are establishing operations in these countries using the same techniques they've perfected in Thailand. The digital nomad trend has created new opportunities for scammers. People booking extended stays, working remotely while traveling, and seeking apartment-style accommodations rather than traditional hotels are particularly vulnerable because they often book through less regulated platforms and are looking for deals that help stretch their budgets. The Instagram influence culture has also been weaponized. Scammers create fake influencer profiles that showcase amazing accommodations, then offer their followers exclusive deals on the same properties. The social media validation makes these offers seem more trustworthy than they would from anonymous sources. Now, let me give you actionable strategies that can protect you from these scams without ruining your travel experience. These aren't theoretical tips. They're battle-tested approaches that experienced travelers use to stay safe while still enjoying amazing vacations. The verification protocol should become second nature. Never book accommodation based solely on social media advertisements or unsolicited messages. Always visit the hotel's official website independently. Don't click links provided by the potential scammer. Look up the hotel's phone number through independent sources and call directly to verify availability and pricing. When you call, don't just ask if the deal is legitimate. Ask specific questions that scammers couldn't answer. What's the hotel's cancellation policy? What amenities are included? What are the check-in procedures? Legitimate hotel staff can provide detailed, consistent answers to these questions. At the end of the day, these scammers aren't just about stolen money. They're about stolen dreams. A vacation that should have been filled with beaches, temples, and unforgettable memories instead turns into panic, frustration, and regret. And the truth is, once your money is gone, it's gone. The only real defense you have is awareness, preparation, and the willingness to double-check everything before you book. So if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: slow down, question every too-good-to-be-true deal, and protect your trip like it's an investment, because it is. Share this video with friends or family planning to travel, so they don't fall into the same traps. And if you've been a victim, leave a comment below. Your story could save someone else's dream vacation. Stay smart, stay skeptical, and travel safe.